Tim Snortons, we have what you need to make it through your day. Need breakfast? You got it. Lunch or dinner? Made to order, just the way you want it.
Delicious.
Thirsty? Try our famous ice fap. A nice latte? Or a classic roast. And don't forget dessert, like our signature Snort bits.
Oh, it's good.
Tim Snortons. We've got you covered.
Chopping it with Mittens, joking about his name is so fly. Mittens, cause he whipping, don't you get it, but that stove's hot, hot. Now let this be a lesson, professing. He handling and hitting his possession. Ooh, what you cooking? Scalding hot beats, was blow up before it's cooking. Ooh, I know you're looking true. I'm out attacking with this beat, I'm a lady man. I'm really trying to date it out. What's the number trying to call out? What about my team? Wood, shout they don't get logged out. Made by Bethesda, the only way we fall out. Morocco, you a mole. Find another hole to crawl out. Hey, I'm sick of squirrel with the biggest girls. Alright,
I guess this is where I come in. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News 2nd edition. I am your host, and welcome to Snortopia. And this is the Gout Report. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an interesting year, 2021, I should say. There'll undoubtedly be a bunch of nonsense that'll go on and whatnot. We'll try to help you guys with that as best we can, if you will. Because we're all in it together either which way. So that's a thing. And let's talk a little bit, I should say, about the video in question, and then we'll get into my TED Talk, and then we can get started. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with LD, DSP Tries It, Misinformation, Victimization, Depersonalization, Denial, and Partial True Confession. This is from April 11th of 2014. The link will be down in the description. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you guys all know what the situation is. Welcome to my TED Talk. 2014 for Phil is, especially at this point, because he's in the process of moving, is going to be a silly situation in itself. And if that's something that we've learned so far as it pertains to going over the old stuff, the DSP lore, if you will, the pig lore on this channel, is that he was destined to fail. Like, he made an enormous amount of mistakes that wouldn't have happened if he was just more patient. And more importantly, if he was more honest. If he was honest with himself, if he was honest with Panda, if he was honest with the audience itself. His own greed and selfishness is what did it. It's literally giving a child a large amount of money, car keys, and being like, here you go, help yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying, you're on your own. And a child will never do what they need to do. They'll always do what they want to do. Darksydephil, you guys see that exhibited with Darksydephil every day. He hasn't changed at all. I don't think he ever will. And so life will always be hard for him, and he'll always be out to manipulate the sentiments and feelings of other people to get himself over. But it's a pipe dream, if you will. It's fool's gold. It won't last forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, the mental gymnastics he puts himself through is amazing if he's able to believe his own lies day in, day out. It's crazy. In any case, one announcement, and then let's go ahead and get started. So, 2021 will be, it seems like, anyway, we will be focusing a good part of the year on Phil's FGC history. We will find out if Darksydephil, DSP, was really the influential member of the FGC community that he put himself out there to be, or as he said he was, and if he's as good as he said he was. The two, well, we'll focus on a bunch of games that he's played, but the main two will be obviously Super Turbo and Third Strike. The reason why I'm picking these two is because he's put himself out there on SRK, as well as on YouTube, of being a pillar of the Third Strike community, despite the fact that he wasn't. The Third Strike community outside of the upper echelon, which was Justin, Ricky Ortiz, as well as some other really prominent American players, was essentially run by the Japanese. And we have all seen Phil's history with the Japanese, and that ain't well. He's never done well. He's never been very good against them. So he's never had any real stake in the Third Strike community. I don't know why. He's had, if he did, let's reword that. He's never had any real stake in the Third Strike community. And if he did, it was only because of his association with other prominent players. But even then, that's not enough to make his word valid or hold any or have any real weight behind it. His only real strength came from who he was associated with, which means he has nothing. But either which way, that's what we'll be going over for most of 2021. Excuse me. There'll be other things sprinkled in between, because why wouldn't there be? But that'll be our focus. You can call it debunking if you will, but that's what our situation is. We're going to see if he really held the clout that he said he did, and if he could really get shit done. If he couldn't, then we're going to find out. At the end of the day, you guys will come to your own determinations on what the situation was. But my initial thought, and at least from all the forums that I've read and whatnot, is he was a joke then, as he's a joke. He was a joke to those people back then, as he's a joke to people like me now. End of story. He's just another loudmouth who took the littlest accomplishments, if one would call it that, and wanted to be like, look at me, look at what I did. You saw that from his 4th place finish at EVO in 2005 to his participation with ECC 11 in 2006, until he ended up eventually just getting fully ousted, as well as, him clamoring about being able to beat certain high-ranking players, or high-ranking players, and yet, when bigger tournaments came about, where there was even more at stake, he couldn't even rank in top 10. Like, you know what I'm saying? These are the problems that Phil is very quick to go ahead and brush to the side and doesn't want to talk about. And it's so long ago, and there's so much bullshit you got to go through, that he doesn't believe anybody will actually look it up or even bring it up to him. So he relies on people's ignorance to get himself over and to stay over until people decide to go ahead and look. And it'll only be a matter of time until people do. But what are you going to do? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And let's go ahead and get into the situation. I hope you guys are doing well. I'll see you guys in a second.
I know you're looking true. I'm out attacking with this beat. I'm a lady man. I'm really trying to date it out. What's the number trying to call out? What about my team? Wood, shout they don't get logged out. Made by Bethesda, the only way we fall out. Morocco, you a mole. Find another hole to crawl out. Hey, I'm sticking squirrel with the biggest girls. Lace since the case get up. I think you're stripping, girl. Damn, how sounding cliche, right? Well, I flame out brain. I'm the PK type. Come and rest in my nest. I'm a bet that night. Metaphor, girl, you gon' get that pipe. Whoa, wrong song. I'm
Okay, good evening, everybody. What's up? What's up with you? Let me tell you, the French baguette was delicious. Oh, yes. I slapped around the emo clown his face. Oh, slap like this. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. What's going on, everybody?
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with LD, DSP Tries It, Misinformation, Victimization, Depersonalization, Denial, and Partial True Confession. This is from April 11th of 2014. The link, without my annoying voice, will be down in the description. Okay, let's listen to this really bad, I assume it's supposed to be French accent, talking about slapping his own baguette, as if we haven't already seen that on stream years later. Honk, honk. This is official clown mode here, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to hopefully the conclusion. I'm hoping that within the next, 2 hours I can beat this. I did put in a solid 2 hours of gameplay last night, a little bit more than that. And I'm thinking we can get it done tonight, hopefully. We'll have to see. But Burial at Sea Episode 2. Quite a long DLC compared to the first one. Burial at Sea episode 1, actually, I ended up beating relatively quickly, even though I did take my time. It took me maybe about 2 hours to 2.5 hours. And this one already we've put in, over 2 hours. And people are saying, no, I'm not even close to being done with it yet. That I'm probably about halfway through. So I guess we shall see, shall we? Now, I am liking it.
Now, here's the thing, real quick. And this is something more that, someone like Tevin or Theo would probably point out. But even LSB to an extent. His overlay, if you will, and how on one side where you can see like remnants of the American flag, if you will, it's not expanded properly, if you will. I guess he doesn't know how to resize or whatever the case may be, or whoever it was that made this, if you want to call it fan art, all he did is really slap his face on there, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna fault him for that. The person who made the fan art for him didn't know how to size it or resize it or whatever the case may be, and yet he accepted it. And don't be wrong, I guess when I guess for him it's the appreciation, if you will, and so on and so forth. But to make it not seem completely incompetent, Jesus Christ, all he has to do is resize this. You know what I'm saying? If they don't do it, then you kind of have to do it. I know Phil doesn't want to do anything extra, right? It was given to him for free. He's just going to use it. But at the same time, though, too, don't make it look as terrible as it is. If you can spruce this up a little bit, then do so. It's the little things. You know what I'm saying? And it's because of his just ongoing laziness. He makes his audience seem as incompetent, as lazy, and as inept as he is. And that's a shame, to be honest with you. Someone, for whatever reason, took the time to put this together. All you had to do was square this up. You know what I mean? And if you didn't know, then just ask for help. Oh, well, I guess this is what it means, right? To be all important. The king never has to do stuff like that.
Interesting. The story is, it's seeming to me like they're concretely going to link BioShock Infinite with the original BioShock. This is all backstory to the original BioShock. And it seems to me like this is going to explain how Fontaine got back to Rapture after he was basically got his ass kicked out by Andrew Ryan. It's interesting to note that maybe Andrew Ryan was a little bit too merciful, because he did tell everyone at Rapture that he had killed Fontaine, when in reality Fontaine survived. Maybe he just kicked him out, exiled him. I don't know. So, I don't know. We're going to see tonight. We're going to see what's going to happen with that. Okay? So that's the plan for tonight's stream, and of course, I will upload all this footage to DSP Gaming tonight as well. I'm excited for tomorrow. I don't know about you guys and gals. I don't know, what you're up to tomorrow. I don't know, but I am so excited because I'm going to get to start to play 2 games, which were both came out during the era when I was not heavily into console gaming, when instead I was into competitive Street Fighter, so much so that I was, multiple times a year traveling across the country, dumping thousands of dollars into this hobby that, in some ways I feel that the competitive Street Fighter that I did actually helped me. And if, for example, getting used to sitting there in front of people and performing, playing it. Now, keep in mind, back then, it wasn't every game you played wasn't on live stream in a tournament, all right? But still, sitting in front of people, playing a game at a high level, being on stage, it's a whole bunch of confidence issues. It's a whole bunch of... Basically, I learned how to be confident. I learned how to not be nervous in front of people. How to be a leader in a lot of ways. And it turned...
Oh, boy. Well, this kind of worked out. All right, we'll see how this whole situation plays out. This should be very, very interesting. In truth, though, if you look back at... Well, that's what we're going to do. But eventually, after looking back at Phil's Darksydephil, DSP, whatever. After looking... God damn it. All right, let's reword this. After going over his FGC history, he gained nothing. at all. Like, literally, the FGC is not trying to, I should say. They let him fade away. They let him fizzle out. They didn't even bother to bury him. They were just like, hey, we don't speak of that guy here. You know what I'm saying? Unless he's done something that is worthy of attention, we don't speak of that guy here. That's all it is. Now, don't be wrong. No one got banned for it, like you see on Phil's forums, where he banned you for mentioning any detractor or any detractor meme, if you will. But they just let him fizzle out. And Phil was still on the boards, meaning that he was still lurking around the boards, I should say. So he saw a lot of that. He saw how these people were quick to let him fade away. These supposed people that he was so cool with or whatever, that he didn't spend all his time with, just went ahead and left the forums on their own, or they chose not to speak on them. They essentially let him die out. So what kind of leadership qualities did he learn from the FGC? And more importantly, why isn't it that anybody will acknowledge him for those things? The same thing at his job when he got fired from there at the helicopter company. The same thing with anything that he's essentially associated with. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of, when it comes to the FGC, it's definitely more mental than physical, for sure. I can understand the whole mental toughness thing, but he doesn't have that. I could understand what he was trying to say about leadership, but he doesn't have that. He didn't have any leadership then, he doesn't have any now. Or leadership skills, I should say. There's a lot of aspects and qualities, if you will, that could have came out of the FGC if he would have sat there and listened, instead of running around like some tard wanting to have a pat on the head for every little thing he did. If people care, they'll acknowledge you for it. If people don't, they don't. You running around getting mad because Justin Wong won't sit there and congratulate you on a tournament win that he didn't give a fuck about, because he probably didn't go to that tournament anyway, or he didn't even know that it was going on, or it wasn't on his agenda when he was a part of Empire Arcadia, for example. Why does he need to acknowledge you for anything? Why does Justin need to acknowledge anybody? I mean, Justin wasn't even on the boards that series. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Sanford. Same thing with a lot of those dudes. They had accounts. Yeah, they would sit there and tweet it, or not tweet, sorry. They would go ahead and talk with their friends or people that, you know, they needed to talk to on the forums, but they could do that through like a private messaging system, I think. So other than that, they would come out there to throw their 2 cents and they were out. They don't have to acknowledge anything about anything. And that's what Darksydephil wanted. He wanted people to actually acknowledge what he was doing. And people didn't have to. They didn't see a need to. There was no value in it. So why should they? So what did he really take away from the FGC? The FGC gave him a lot. It's his own fault that he couldn't capitalize on
it. Into things that have helped me, both when I used to have an office job, when I used to lead meetings and stuff like that. Now that I do this, you know, this own self-employment business here on YouTube and Twitch, to not be nervous when I'm on stream or I'm in a video and talking, you know, it comes natural to me. And, you know, a lot of people couldn't do that. A lot of people have even said, Phil, how do you get this confidence? Where do you get it from? It's from all those years when I was publicly playing Street Fighter. It basically gave me a thick skin and made me not nervous anymore to do stuff like that. So, in many ways, you know,
now that's funny, too, because he's actually contradicting himself. He said that when he was at the helicopter company, right, that actually helped build his confidence to publicly speak, because he had to for certain conventions or whatnot. But then he's contradicting himself yet again, because he said that when he was in high school and when he was in college and he had to do reports and whatnot, or he had to do collaborations with people, or he was in group activities with people, and they needed someone to speak, they used to always go to him because they felt like he was a good speaker. So where does it really come from? When he's already given like 3 or 4 stories over the span of years on where he built this confidence from. That same confidence that he allegedly has now, despite the fact that when he's in an obvious lie, he stutters, his eyes bolt all over the place, he gives off the obvious signs that I'm deceiving you. But he's so confident though, right? And he's such a good speaker. Oh well.
Thousands of dollars that I spent, all the time that I spent traveling, the people that I met, I'll never forget it, you know? I'll never get back into it like that, no freaking way. And I always, I do like Street Fighter, and I do play it from time to time. And when Ultra Street Fighter 4 comes out this year, I am going to be trying to play it at least semi-seriously online. I don't know if I'll ever travel to a tournament to play it ever again. I don't think it's really worth it, quite honestly, the effort and the time and the money invested. But,
especially when you're not good at it. And in truth, he wasn't. To be honest, he wasn't good enough to be competing. I mean, you saw how he was flailing around online like a dead fish. He definitely wasn't going to be able to go up there and compete with the best. He'd be nothing more than country fried ham steak at that point. Like, they would pick him apart. They would pick him apart. And you could say that for most of his FGC career. Every tournament this idiot used to go to, he wanted a money match. He wanted to do all the shit talking with some of these guys. And these guys ran trains on him. I'm not going to apologize for saying it that way. That's what happened. They financially ran trains on him. You know what I mean? For his money. And that's where the bulk of his money went, ladies and gentlemen, on gambling. He gambled a lot of that money away. When you go to a tournament, not everybody who goes to a tournament expects to win. You go for the experience, right? And it is quite the experience to have. But that's what you're going for. But see, Darksydephil, he out there for clout too. He thinks he can win the tournament. He thinks he can get into these grudge matches with people who he doesn't feel that are really as good as the community has hoisted these people up to be. And he's willing to throw money behind it. And then he loses. Then he goes home. Then he gets clowned on the boards. And then he comes up with all these excuses on why he lost. So in actuality, ladies and gentlemen, all the money that he lost it through gambling. That's what happened.
During that period of time, I spent a shit ton of money and time in Street Fighter, and it is what it is, and I missed a lot of stuff. I really did. I missed out on the whole PS2, GameCube, even the early, Xbox 360 and PS3, those generations of gaming I completely missed out on.
But wait a second. I thought Phil told us that he was an avid gamer and that he played a shitload of games before he even went on to YouTube. And a lot of the games that he didn't get a chance to play, I played it offline, or I played it when I was a kid. My mom and dad would allow me to rent a video every weekend or something, along the lines. And so I got to play it a little bit then, but then I dropped it after like an hour or two. But now he's saying that he missed entire generations of games over Street Fighter. So how are you an avid gamer in your youth when you constantly and consistently tell us that when I was playing Street Fighter, I wasn't playing anything else? It's almost like that piggytism, right? He has a one-track mind and he can't do more than one thing at one time, which would explain, in all honesty, his inability to play multiple games and to play them well. Hence the reason why they get dragged out for months on end. Not because he's playing multiple games at once. It's because he's so bad at games. And he doesn't have the mental constitutions, if you will, to be able to navigate through multiple games in a short period of time, that everything suffers. And in a lot of ways, outside of his reflexes, his reaction time, and then his physical ailments that hold him back in Street Fighter, you could very well say that's the reason why his skills have depleted over the years, what little he had. Hence the reason why he was so desperate to start Street Fighter back up. He needed something to keep him motivated. Now, I know everybody wants to say, no, it's because Assassin's Creed Valhalla is garbage. It's because Cyberpunk is garbage, according to him, of course. And that's the real reason why he's playing Street Fighter. No, he's playing Street Fighter because, one, it's the only thing that he gives a shit about, right? Because it's the only game he has any real accomplishments in, right? It's kind of like Dark Souls, but way more intense than Dark Souls. And two, it's the only thing that it's the reprieve he's looking for with all the other games that he's playing and failing at. That's essentially what it comes down to. He's been playing it for a long time. It's the only thing he can succeed at. Period. Which is sad. Because in a lot of ways, Street Fighter has become his online persona in a lot of ways. At one time, people were willing to put up with his bullshit. Well, some people thought it was entertaining. Then people were willing to put up with it, and then he just did it for too long, and people just got tired of it. And after lashing out at him, which only gives him even more attention, they just decided, ignore him and he'll fade away. And you've seen that in pretty much all of the different eras, if you will, of Darksydephil's life. From IRL to the friends that he had in IRL, to the FGC, to YouTube, and to Twitch now, to be honest with you. The only thing that he has now is his enemies, if you will. And even then, most of them are bored of him. And this is and as consistent as he is with how he treats people, he falls in very much into that narrative that the way someone does something is usually how they do everything. And if that statement isn't true for Darksydephil, I don't know what is.
Busy with Street Fighter, and I had a PlayStation 2. In fact, I owned 4 PlayStation 2s. I'm not even kidding you, but guess what they were for? Street Fighter. Running tournaments of Street Fighter. I owned barely any games for the console besides Street Fighter related games, such as...
Which is ironic too, because he ended up getting fired over those PS2s as well. So keep that in mind. And also, that goes back to his single-minded pursuit, if you will, of Street Fighter, that he essentially sunk every bit of money that he could into it. And he was probably also begging his parents for money as well, so he could continue, sorry about that, to sink money into Street Fighter. That's all this guy's life was for, 7 or 8 years, or however long his tournament reign was. You know, that's all he cared about, and it's all he cared about is because I should say, those were the only people that he felt that accepted him, for positive or negative, or neutral. They put up with him, so he looked at it as, these are my people. In a lot of ways, on how he said when he moved from Connecticut to Seattle, oh, I'm moving there because those are my people. Those are people who understand me, they're open-minded, and so on and so forth. Me and Leanna are moving out there to be around people who are like us. And now look, he's a shut-in in a housing community for people who are, I'd say, around his age, if not older now. You know what I mean? He's not living, he didn't actually move to one of the more, I wouldn't say trendy, but he didn't move out there to live around people that were his age. He looked at living around older people because they were less threatening. You know what I mean? I think that's really what it comes down to. They were less threatening. It's a nice, quiet neighborhood where he can shut himself in and he can spaz out all he wants. And more than likely, as long as he doesn't go too crazy with it, no one's going to question him on it. Just something to think about, of course.
Third Strike, Capcom versus SNK 2, and eventually a version of Super Turbo. So, now for me tomorrow to be starting 2 new games. I did, by the way, just so you guys know, I did complete Infamous Second Son's Good Karma playthrough today. It was perfect timing. I finished it perfectly with the amount of time I had on the first stream today, which means that starting tomorrow, yes, I will be starting Resident Evil 4 HD on first stream. So if you're a fan of the game, you grew up with it, you liked it a lot, you want to see me trying it for the first time, because I did play the game, I owned it on GameCube, and I played through the first level, and I just didn't get it. I don't know, at that point, I just didn't get it.
He was going to say he got bored with it, but then again, he's contradicting himself, because he just told us that he missed a bunch of games, if not all of the games of certain generations. GameCube was included. Now, I did play it, and I gave it X amount of time, and I got bored. I didn't get it. He wanted to say he was bored with it, but he can't do that because he doesn't want to fuck off the audience who may come to see him. So I'm just going to go ahead and feign ignorance and say I didn't get it. It's all in the subtleties, if you will, especially back then, that makes Darksydephil the way he is now. And he's not even willing to hide it now. He's just gotten lazy over the years. It's really interesting to listen to.
I was like, what is this? This isn't Resident Evil. This is nothing like the old school Resident Evil I remember. And I just didn't get into it. It's funny because at the time I remember I had moved to I had moved to the city of New Haven, Connecticut, because I had a job in Orange at the time, Orange, Connecticut, which is like one town over from New Haven, Connecticut. And I lived in this apartment with two other people, two other coworkers of mine. So it was a 3-bedroom apartment. We were all, splitting the rent. And I said, I'm going to go crazy. One night, I said, I just want to, I've been playing Street Fighter the whole time. I missed out. I've never even, had a GameCube. I'm going to buy a GameCube, and I'm going to buy a ton of games for it. And I remember I bought the GameCube, and I bought Metroid Prime 1 and 2. I think I bought a Zelda. I bought Resident Evil 4. I bought a bunch of games. I'm trying to remember what else I had. I bought a ton of them, right? And I remember.
And where did the money come from to buy all those games? It's just something to think about. Because he wasn't working at the helicopter company yet. Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, I don't think he was working at the helicopter company yet. Now that I think about it. I mean, granted, though, we have to get a better, kind of a better definition of what the timeline was. But I think when he initially started working at the helicopter company, he was still, I think he was living at home. And then once he made enough money, he moved out and bought the condo. And he lived in the condo until him and Leanna left the East Coast. Something that I'll look into a little more later.
It showed up, right? It showed up.
But even then, you said, oh, I was going to go crazy a little bit. I was going to do something out of the norm. So you went out and bought a GameCube and just bought a shitload of games? That was being crazy? Yet again, I'm completely and totally devoted to Street Fighter, and that's all I care about. That's all he spent every waking moment of his life doing. And he thinks I'm going to do something zany and crazy. I'm just going to go out and buy a bunch of GameCube games and buy a GameCube and buy a bunch of GameCube games and whatnot. Well, that's what gaming is. You can still be dedicated to Street Fighter and play everything else. But Phil don't see that. And you're seeing that here.
The apartment, all this stuff getting delivered. And I go to play, and I started playing. I remember I played Resident Evil 4. That was one. And there was going to be one or two other of the games that I played. And first of all, I distinctly remember hating the GameCube controller. I was like, this is a child's toy. How am I supposed to control anything with this fucking thing? It looks like a play school version of a game console. And, I couldn't stand the controller. I remember that. And then I remember I was just playing it, and I was like, what am I doing? I just spent all this money on this stupid console. When here I am, I'm young. I should be spending time with my roommates. We should be going out drinking at clubs, meeting young people. And I'm sitting here in my room playing GameCube. I remember. It was funny because I remember one night I was playing GameCube and one of my roommates knocked on my door and said, what the hell are you doing? Come on, let's go out to the club. And I was like, nah, I just want to sit here and play video games. They said, what the fuck is your problem? That's what's funny. There is still an entire culture of people who think that, playing video games is a loserish thing to do.
It's not necessarily a loserish thing to do. It's just you're a loser. And that's why they wanted you to get up out the house. You were a fucking shut-in and they saw it. That right there is telling, ladies and gentlemen, to be honest with you. One, not only how he frivolously spent his money, but in a lot of ways on how he reacted to his roommates, who are also apparently co-workers of his. So that is very, very telling of what Darksydephil eventually ended up becoming later on down the line. Because if you know a little bit more about Phil's lore, when he first started his YouTube channel, he was living at home and he was playing video games out of his room, obviously in his parents' house, which is now a room dedicated to a bunch of cats. There's a level of irony to all that, by the way. But that's all he did. You know what I'm saying? That's how he started his YouTube career off and whatnot. And he's talked about his frustrations on how he couldn't say certain things or how he didn't want to be too loud because he didn't want to wake up his parents or all this, that, and the third. And then when he eventually got his new condo, you guys remember that video, how he said, oh, I'm going to use this condo to my advantage because now it's my condo / studio, so I can do whatever I want. And yet again, even in his late 20s, talking like someone who's probably like 17 or 18, who have just moved out on their own. You know what I mean? So yet again, just to give you guys more of the psychology of of what our boy was going through here. So and I like also the deflect, because that was kind of funny, even though you could take it any which way you want to. But how his roommate looking at him on his floor playing video games, being like, yo, we could be going out and doing something. What the fuck is wrong with you? And Phil taking it and spinning it to being like, oh, video game. He looked at it as video games was a loser type activity, right? In the culture behind it. Instead of him looking at you and being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You can play video games at any given time once you come out and show with us. The exact same sentiment that he said prior to this situation, or prior to this statement that he made, that he should be out hanging out with young people his age and all this nonsense. Just, yet again, it's a weird thought process. Very, very strange.
Go out and drink and socialize, and that's fine, but they also sleep around. So, I was not a clubber, let's put it that way. I like to be in a relaxing environment and drinking and talking with people. I do not like clubs. So, I remember eventually, I just didn't really play the GameCube that much. And eventually I got rid of it.
All that money. Think about this. He spent all of that money only to drop it, X amount of time later. Which goes back to Phil's natural behavior on being a consumer, a serial consumer, an impulse buyer. You know what I mean? Almost an impulse addict when it comes to buying stuff. An addict, to some degree, that or an activity, I should say, that he does now, which is one of the main reasons why he doesn't want to do a condo tour. And for good reason. I personally think he shouldn't do one, because the videos of his old condo tours, or his old tour, I should say, with house tour with Panda, is still readily available online. It's mirrored in a bunch of places. I'm going to eventually mirror that video. If there's going to be, I guarantee it, that there are a bunch of changes that he has made, or a bunch of new stuff that he's purchased to make the home seem more comfortable for Catherine and himself. Because look at how Phil is so quick to distance certain people from his past life, as he likes to call it. There's a lot of stuff in that house that he uses probably every day, or at least he sees it every day, that reminds him of Panda, and he doesn't want that there. He wants to go ahead and get away from that, I should say, as quickly as possible. And you see a lot of that from him letting the plants die that he purchased after Panda left. The hamsters dying. Him getting Jasper. His parents sending him a bunch of stuff for Jasper, a giant cat tower and all this stuff. Things to distinctly make the home different with Catherine than it was with Panda. That's kind of how Phil's mind works. You know what I mean? And it makes a whole lot of sense. And that's why when he eventually lost John and Howard, Brightside Viking was so important. Because Viking was like that cushion, if you will. That reliable stump that was there to listen to Phil's problems and deal with the bullshit that he may speak to John. Now, maybe not on the level of intimacy that Phil imagines he had with John, but you guys kind of get my drift, right? And then when he had to stab Brightside Viking in the back to save himself, even though he didn't need to do it, so it was frivolous and it served no real purpose, now Phil's fucked. Which only intensified the paranoia that you see today. I believe that paranoia stems back to John and Howard and how he ended up fucking over Brightside Viking when he didn't have to. But yet again, that's just a theory. Give me some time to expand on that.
I just what am I doing with this? Half the games that I bought for it, I never even opened. And I ended up playing more freaking Street Fighter. Which is what it is. I remember,
which is hilarious too, because Phil has shitted on people, right, who make a living off Street Fighter, especially during the Street Fighter V era. He spent a lot of time doing it, shitting on them on how they're all one-dimensional and they only play one type of game and that was it, and they only do it for profit, and they only do it because it's the only thing they can do, which is obviously a lie. Maximilian's a great example of that. There's a bunch of people that are great examples of that. But at the end of the day, those same people that he's trying to bash on are successful. You know what I mean? Smug is successful. Justin Wong is successful. Maximilian is successful. There's a bunch of people that you could say that are dedicated only to Street Fighter or to fighting games in particular and are successful. The only difference is he's not. But if you go back and you look at some of his older videos where he talks about his time with Machinima around the Street Fighter 4 era, he was presented in a very amazing opportunity to bridge the gap between YouTube and the FGC community, with Machinima trying to possibly start their own Street Fighter tournaments, which eventually they would want to reach out to Capcom, even if they didn't already have an existing relationship with them, and start to really get into the tournament scene, because Street Fighter 4 was bumping. You know what I'm saying? This is at the beginning of the series. The Street Fighter 4 series was really bumping heavy, and they wanted to get a piece. And Darksydephil, for ill or nil, was a big name in that. From his name, you could bring Maximilian in. From that name, you could eventually reach out to Mike Ross and Gout. You could eventually reach out to Alex Valle, and so on and so forth. Phil could have been the catalyst, but he didn't understand. He couldn't articulate what was being told to him, right? And he only saw what was in front of him. In this situation that we're currently listening to, the only thing that was in front of him was Street Fighter. He went out of his way to purchase the Dreamcast, or not Dreamcast, sorry, the GameCube, and get all those games and whatnot, and then used his roommates as a foil for, oh, that's the reason why I didn't dedicate myself to it, because I should have been doing all these things with them. When in actuality, he was just impulse buying, and he wanted to really he just went back to Street Fighter because that's all he ever gave a shit about, because that was all he was ever good at, if you will. Same thing with the whole situation with Machinima. Machinima didn't necessarily need Phil to be their flagship, but it would have been a very good start. And Phil couldn't articulate what was going on. His YouTube channel was getting a lot of traction and traffic. He was making a shitload of money, and he initially thought he was going into the meeting because of that. He wasn't open-minded enough to see that in any meeting, it could start off with this, but it could eventually expand into something else. Excuse me, let me give you another example. The situation with Respect the Pack and Project 7. Phil has recently said that, it was a whole nother meeting, and that they actually had, well, he said in the past there was 2 meetings on this. Both of that, and that's a whole nother story in itself. But the main takeaway from that, ladies and gentlemen, the new lore, if you will, is one of the meetings initially was held at a Snortbucks Coffee. Sorry, at a Starbucks Coffee. It should have been at Snortbucks, though. But Snortbucks didn't exist at that time, so it is what it is. But the initial meeting was at a Starbucks, and they sat around in this round table, I guess trying to add a level of legitimacy to what they were doing, and they discussed the situation of money. Now, this right here shows the lack of mental flexibility and social flexibility that Darksydephil exhibits on a day-to-day basis. The initial meeting allegedly was Respect the Pack, John and Howard and Phil talking about, okay, how do you want to split this up? He says, because we only have one side of all this, Darksydephil says that, they didn't want money. This whole situation was supposed to be about publicity and for them to get popular. Now, I want you to think about this very, very clearly, because eventually we will go over this. How is it that someone, meaning DSP, Darksydephil, Dark Geppetto, Darkside Karen, who only got over because of circumstance, how is he going to be able to get Respect the Pact over and get them popular when he couldn't even flex the ability to be a kingmaker, if you will, to get his own friends, John and Howard, over? I want you to think about that. John and Howard were heavily associated with Phil and his YouTube channel. And not to say, I don't mean to shit on them, because their channels, I'm sure, are certainly bigger than my own. But, well, no, I mean, it's true. Yeah, their channels are certainly bigger than mine. He couldn't get them over. They never hit, 50,000 or 100,000 subs. So how the fuck was Respect the Pack going to think that he was going to get them over? And then even, and then that's semantics. If you can make of that whatever you will. But then later on, when the situation changed and one of those fellas ended up finding out him and his girlfriend or fiance or whoever that was is going to have a kid, which is what prompted John and Howard to be like, hey, we're already 3 or 4 episodes into this. Dude's finding out that he's going to have a kid. He needs to start really prioritizing now because he was sinking a lot of his time into this, right? For the supposed publicity, right? To get themselves popular, get themselves over. We have to make it worth their while. If you want to keep this going, we need to throw some money at them to make it worth their while. What does Phil say? Oh, well, when we had that first meeting, they said they didn't want money. They said they were just going to try to get themselves popular and they just wanted me to basically shout them out and give them clout. Yeah, Phil, but things are different now. These guys, one of these dudes have a kid coming on the way. And they might not even be able to finish. There may not be a season 2 or season 3 or season 4, which is what Phil envisioned, right? Let's just pay them a little bit of money so we can get them over now. Oh, well, they don't want any money, though. They said they didn't want any money. Phil, that's what they said. This is what our situation is now. They don't want any money. End of story. And then that's why Project 7 failed. And you heard that in the John and Howard response. And yet he sneak disses the situation with Project 7 being like, oh, it was Respective Pack's fault. They didn't get as popular as they thought, so that's why they fucked up. When in actuality, they could have used some of the money from the shirt sales, or the lack thereof. Well, not even that, because the shirts are a discrepancy too, for a lot of reasons. I won't get into that fully, but the thing is with the Project 7 shirts, it was a 3-way dance between John, Howard, and OJ. No, John, Howard, and Respect the Pack. No, sorry, John, Howard, and Phil. My bad. It was a 3-way dance between John, Howard, and Phil. Each one of them had to throw up $300, I believe, to get these shirts made and printed or whatever. And then when they went to a couple of conventions and they saw that the shirts weren't moving as quickly as they thought, they all just wrote it off as a loss. Now, whatever happened to the money that was made from the sales, from the shirts they sold, no one talks about. But whatever. After that, Phil said, well, let's just throw the shirts away. Howard and John were like, nah, we shouldn't do that. One, you can give it, and I think John was the one who posed to him, you could just give this away as, you could keep these shirts and give them away later on as, I don't know, a giveaway or whatever the case may be. Tossing these shirts aren't a good idea. So Phil's like, all right, fine. I think John held it or Howard was holding on to it for a little while. And then eventually OJ, I think, was holding it in like his basement or some shit. And everybody forgot about it. But right before Phil moved, he was asking who has the shirts. I can't remember who it was that went and retrieved the shirts for him, but they eventually did. He took it with him to from Connecticut to Washington. Then he gives it away as part of a $50 or $75 Patreon perk. That's where the shirts ended up going later on down the line. The same shirts that he wanted them to throw away when they initially couldn't make any money off of it. Are you guys picking up what I'm trying to put down when it comes to how frivolous he is with money, how quickly he's willing to discard stuff when it doesn't meet his expectations right away, and more importantly, how just indecisive and irresponsible he is with his day-to-day actions, and how he is not very good socially or from a business standpoint or even financially flexible to adjust to a situation. You're seeing and listening to all of that right now in real time. And that right there is disturbing. So when he sits there and blames the detractors for the fall of DSP gaming, no, you just weren't doing very good business, and eventually it showed when the tides socially turned against you. And then on top of that, you failed from a business aspect, you're failing socially, and then financially you're still being irresponsible and throwing your money away on frivolous shit. Think about it.
Thousands more to go to Evos and do all this and that. It's like, I mean, there's so many different things I could have been doing with my life, but I don't know. It's funny how things work out. So Final Fantasy X, I did play. I had it for PlayStation 2 at one point. It was later on after it was older. I don't think Final Fantasy X-2 had been out yet. Actually, I take that back. I bought Final Fantasy X and X-2 together because they were both discounted because they were old. And I remember booting up 10 and playing it for like 2 hours and saying, what the fuck is this? You know, I hadn't played a Final Fantasy since 8. I didn't like 8. By the way, I didn't like 7. The last one I liked was 6. And I started playing 10. I remember being bored. Now, keep in mind, after that, I've gotten accustomed to the overblown, overdramatic, very feminine-like male characters of the Final Fantasy universe that they've basically force-fed us since then. So, I don't think that it's going to bother me this time around playing that game, but it's just funny. 2 games that I owned before and played, but played very little of, and never got to experience the full experience of those games because I just wasn't heavily into console games at the time. It would be like I would try.
You were uncomfortable with how feminine some of the male characters were. Now it's funny too because that sparks. There's already an argument, not an argument. There's already a discussion being sparked on what Phil's sexual orientation is, and or his how uncomfortable he is with sexual situations. Now, theoretically, we already heard a little bit of that at the beginning of this, towards the beginning of this video, when he was speaking on going out with his roommates. He never said they were his friends. Sorry, let's not go ahead and shoehorn them into a situation. But how his roommates were wanting to go out to clubs, go out and drink, socialize with people, and all this, and he didn't like it because one, he didn't like, he wasn't really feeling the aspect of, he said he likes going out and socializing with people and he likes drinking, but then when it came to sleeping around, he said he seemed uncomfortable with that, which there's nothing wrong with if you don't want to sleep around with random people that you don't know or you barely know. That's understandable. But in actuality, especially given the conversations we're having as of late, you might see it a little bit on Detractor Twitter. I'm not sure. Supposedly we made a second account, so that's going to be cool. So I'll be able to start up on that again. And on Kiwi Farms, I think they might have mentioned a little bit about it, where just how uncomfortable he is and how he's always been as it comes to sexuality. And that may very well explain why you saw some of the his deficiency, his sexual deficiency with Panda, but then look at how his behavior has been with Catherine now. And how, on top of the fact that how uncomfortable they are with each other, very clearly in some of those early videos with them together or streams, but how he talks about her now. It's almost, yet again, it's almost like, ladies and gentlemen, it was their whole situation, that whole marriage, that whole relationship is what I said it was, a sham. It is convenience. It's an agreement, right? It's an arrangement and nothing more. And whatever sexual encounters that they've had with each other, which I'm sure they have, probably didn't go well. And I would assume the same thing happened with Panda in some way, shape, or form, but I think Panda was way more optimistic and thought it would get better over time, and it didn't. And with Catherine doesn't care so much, and Phil doesn't want to probably end up wanting to disappointing her in the same way that he disappointed Panda, so he's willing to go ahead and leave all that off the boards. And then this thing with Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk is whatever you make of it, but at the end of the day, it's not real life. It's really not. So whatever sexual orientation or sexual vibes that it gives off, it's a game. It's not reality. But watching Phil respond to it is it's a Philism. It's a Philism. I guess I'll leave it at that.
These games when I was bored, and then I'd say fuck this and I'd go play Street Fighter. And I'm so different now. I'm so different. So different from back then. Like I said, I'd like to say that since I've been doing this on YouTube, and obviously now a year on Twitch, this is my year anniversary, by the way. 1 year now I've officially been on Twitch TV, live streaming daily, which is awesome. But, I do feel like I've matured as a gamer, that the way that I approached games back in 2008 to 2011 and 12 was much differently than the way I approach games now. Which, of course, is absolutely hilarious, because if you remember, the reason I used to get so much hate back then, people would say, oh, could you suck, and you don't actually try, and, this and that. Now I can get through a game like Dark Souls 2, I can beat it from start to finish, And now it is, oh, Phil's a hypocrite. Phil just cares about money. He hates his fan. No matter what, there's always going to be bullshit. You know what I mean? There's always going to be negative bullshit. It seems like if it's not one thing, it's another. If it's not something, people will make something up. Right? People will always have a reason.
That's funny because that's sentiment you hear even now. How Phil has changed so much, how he's changed so much from the person he was to the person he is now, but people still criticize him, and so on and so forth, and they just keep, as he likes to say, moving the goalpost back or stacking the deck against him, or so on and so forth. But in actuality, he's never really changed. His circumstances have changed. Like he said just a minute ago, it's my 1 year anniversary of streaming regularly or consecutively on Twitch, guys. You know what I mean? Which is pretty cool. His circumstances have changed. He hasn't. And that's why he ends up eventually molting. I'm trying to think of what it is, what that actual process is. Let's not use molting. He ends up cocooning himself back into the situation that he was. Even if he was trying to make strides or really trying to make a breakthrough, he eventually ends up falling back into what he was because that's what he is. You can't change that. He's not really looking to change it. He's merely looking to give you the illusion that he's changed. But in actuality, he's still the same scumbag. He's still doing the same shit. He's just doing it in a slightly different way. You know what I mean? If Phil could sit there and talk about fucking shitty dicks and tits and ogle any fucking female character that he wanted, or make any race joke that he wanted, he wouldn't be nearly as uptight as he is now. He wouldn't be wound up as crazy as he is. But he can't do those things. Yet, he still shows the impulses of wanting to do it. So then you haven't changed. I'll give you an example. You guys remember back in 2020 and in 2019 in a lot of ways, whenever a person of color came up on the screen, he started chewing on his fingernails, on his hooves, as I like to call it. He does that to fight the impulses that he has and whatnot. And the thing is that, I'm not a racist, but he's so quick to go to the race joke because he thinks it's funny. And when it doesn't respond, or when other people don't find it funny, you guys are being too sensitive. You guys are doing this. You guys are doing that. How about it's just not funny and that's why no one's laughing at it? How about that? And then let's go back to the debunking stream, the 7 years of debunking that he did, where, I used to make race jokes and I used to do this and I do that. And, all of that was bad. But the only thing I regret, though, was making the Jew jokes and the sexuality jokes and whatnot. Those are the things that I really regret. The race jokes, you guys are just being bitches. But me talking about women the way I did and then talking about the Jews was bad. Wow, that sounds like some shit that you hear on Twitter. Isn't that something? So he never really felt, he still doesn't feel bad, because I think he just said recently, either Mr. Huff Stuff or that, what's the name of that one guy who's been, he's been putting in a lot of work lately. Is it AN 1337? Something like that. I apologize, I don't have his name in front of me. But, one of them have the video where Phil recently talked about that. I know Snortbucks definitely has it too. I'm pretty sure. Where Phil talks about, I wish I could make the jokes that I used to make, but I can't because of the circumstances. But if you've grown up and moved on from those things, then that's the stuff that as a child you put away. And you don't yearn to go back and do it again because you've matured and you've moved on. You've expanded your horizons. But Phil hasn't clearly done that, has he? Just something to think about.
Reason to not like me. Fuck it. I don't care. You know what I mean? I exist. I'm making a living. I'm having fun. I have a dedicated hardcore fan base that loves what I do. And that's all I care about.
All right. And on that angry snort, I exist. No one's trying to wipe away your existence. So why aren't you saying that I am a presence? I have a voice. People listen to me. People value what I say. Why aren't you saying that? Why are you saying that I exist? That's ironic because that goes back to something that I've been saying pretty much my entire Detractor career, if you will, is that he only merely exists. He doesn't do anything else. He's not thriving. He's not striving to be better or change his content or change who he is as a person. He merely exists. But you're listening right here in 2004. I said that in 2017. In 2014, he was saying, I exist and you should acknowledge me for existing. Well, why would anybody do that? You're not doing anything. I'm supposed to give you praise because you can breathe? Because you can snort freely? I'm supposed to acknowledge you for that? And when you start to render your personal value down to the lowest common denominator, as in I exist, how can you expect people to respect you? Like, look at how he values himself. Why should anybody respect that? How could anybody respect that? Is there anything more to you than just the fact that you're just here? That's what existing means. You're just here. Just like my Snortbucks coffee cup is here. Just like how my cell phone's here. Just like how all of this stuff that's on my desk and whatnot exists. But what more is it to that than that? Are you doing anything else? Something to think about.
Joe Popular, the big, and it's funny because people who don't know me, or people who are friends with other YouTubers who I'm friendly with, like SSOHPKC, they actually have, in the past couple of months, since they noticed that I've been talking to, say, Seamus a little bit more, they say, I don't understand. I watch your content. I don't know why people hate you. And I say, you know what? That's because anyone who's a logical outsider who doesn't watch 400 bullshit montages and stupid slander-filled videos, they probably wouldn't know either. But that's the thing. People are like sheep. They watch one or two things, they immediately believe.
And see, that right there has fucked him over to this very day. Not the fact that he's frustrated or upset that people watch detractor content or content that makes them look bad or whatever. But the fact that he has to bash those very people as well. You being mad at the content that's being made on you is one thing. But for you to bash the people who watch it, right, is something entirely else. If you want these people to give you a chance, how are you going to shit on them and whatnot for watching the other stuff first? When that right there was probably recommended to them first. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not how it works, idiot. If someone sees something about you or reads something about you or hears something about you that is against the norms, if you will, if you ended up bashing them in a blanket statement, because that's what it is, if you decide to bash those very people and then that clip or a screenshot of that gets around, they're going to look at that and be like, oh, well, then he is exactly what people said he was. You've automatically put up a wall and given them a reason not to give you a chance when you turn around and call them idiots because they watch the content or they believe it or whatever. You're not even giving them the chance. You're not even opening up a line of dialogue to even show them that you're different than what's being said. Because when you make ignorant statements like this, you've only made the situation worse. And that's the problem. That's the reason why the detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, that's why the fucking community's so goddamn big. That's why it spans over multiple websites. That's the reason why his Evo results from 2005 keeps getting modified on Wikipedia. And all these different changes have come to it. If you're going to act like an asshole, people are going to treat you as one. And he's never been able to figure that out. If you dislike me, that's fine. If you dislike people in my audience who listen to what I've said, without giving them a chance to actually go over there and listen to you, because the next broadcast I put out is, hey, he's bashing you guys for listening to detractor content or whatnot, you've already lost. You've beaten yourself. I didn't have to lift a finger to do anything. I didn't have to do nothing. You did all the hoof bashing yourself, which is amazing. You sat there and cut your own snout off and bled all over the place to prove that you were very much the idiot that I said you were. And whose fault was that? I didn't prompt you to do that. You did that yourself. That was just like when Jackie Chan and Be Awesome One did the copyright claims on the fan art and all the other peripherals that they did. They didn't prompt Phil, or they didn't have it planned for Phil to go off and delete all of those videos. He did that on his own. He did that on his own. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's a chain reaction type effect. And he doesn't work well under pressure. So what kind of businessman is that? Ladies and gentlemen, what happened to all the leadership skills and all the confidence that supposedly the FGC gave him when he's still reacting the way he's reacting? Yet again, that's not the FGC failing in any way, shape, or form. That is DSP failing DSP.
Some guy challenges me randomly. I don't know who the guy is. He didn't contact me. He made a stupid video challenging me to play Street Fighter or something. I don't even know what it was because I didn't watch the stupid video. People have challenged me over the years hundreds and thousands of times to play games, and I'm not interested in it.
Oh boy, do you guys know what that means? Do any of you guys know what this is? You got now in Snortopia, just like in Goutopia, things work in rather strange ways. We were talking about Street Fighter Week, right? Main event is going to be basically be starting that off for us. That's exactly who he's talking about right here. This is when main event was presented with the supposed pedo, alleged pedo charges against Phil and some of the other disgusting shit that Phil has done. And he was like, the community needs to clean itself up, which he's right. And I'll get more into that later. Like main events, like what main events said over those 3 videos. And if you look at how the FGC is now, he was pretty bang on with shit. And because so many people defended Phil and so on and so forth, if I remember correctly, the challenge was issued that, hey, let's play, like, I don't know, play a game of Street Fighter, whatever, and the loser had to, like, leave social media or some shit. Something like that. And Phil immediately backed down. He just bashed the guy. He tried to dismiss the guy. And then in the 2 videos that end up coming after that, you just saw exactly how toxic, exactly how nutty Phil and his fan base is, and how a lot of them, even if they were trying to be edgy or trolling, proved to be very disgusting people. The same disgusting gay ops shit people that you still kind of see now in a lot of ways. So that's what this situation here is, at least this little segment. It just happened to work out that way. I didn't actually know that LD had gone over that video, but you know, like I said, in the Gouty universe, things fall in line for a reason. Let's continue. Or let us continue, sorry.
Not interested in it, but this guy basically saying I'm not a competitive Street Fighter player. I was never good. It's like, you idiot. There's tournament history, you moron. You could go back in the annals and see the tournaments that I've won, the tournaments that I've placed at. They're all archived. Like, how can you say I'm not a tournament level player? You're an idiot. And then, I don't respond to the guy because I'm trying to be bigger than that and say, no, I don't, dude, I don't respond to people challenging me on the internet. And then he makes another video, DSP declines the challenge. No, I didn't. I didn't even acknowledge it because I don't give a fuck. And I get people messaging me, I hate you, Phil. I saw that this guy challenged you and you're a bitch and you're a fraud and you're not a real Street Fighter player. Like, oh my God. These people on the internet are so stupid. How can you be that stupid? It would take you 2 seconds to say Darksydephil tournament results and search. You would immediately get tournaments that I entered in the results. Evo East, multiple Evo Easts, Evo World, all kinds of regional tournaments from the East Coast, from California, from Texas that I've been to, that I was in and I placed at.
Let me jump in. Doesn't Phil say that, oh, you people keep judging me about shit that I did years ago and they need to get over it and I'm so tired of this and so on and so forth, and why can't they let the past be the past? Ladies and gentlemen, this video is from April of 2014. The tournament wins Phil is talking about was like 2005, like 2004, 2005, 2006, and 2007. So you're talking about at the very least, 7 years prior, if not 7 to 10 years prior to our situation currently. Well, the situation we're going over. So it's funny how when they are, air quotes, accomplishments, and he needs something to back it up, oh, go and look back at my history. But if it's something negative that he's done, which more often than not is what it is, he doesn't want anybody to look that up. Why can't you guys just be mature adults and let shit go? What's good for the geese is good for the gander.
Evidence is black and fucking white. How could you be so stupid? Oh my god. Unfreaking believable. But that's what I mean. This is the internet. This is the mentality of the internet. You know? Someone made a video, it must be true. So when a bunch of idiots all band together to make videos to progressively try to slander my name, oh, it must be true. DSP didn't respond to one random person who challenged him to a game of anything? Oh my god, he must be a scrub. Yes. Unreal, so funny. I just gotta laugh, man. I just have to laugh. I have to laugh when this kind of stuff happens. It's funny how many times I bring up, how many times in my videos I bring up how I missed.
It's funny too, because I'm kind of just noticing this, that when the Pignosis is starting to be instituted or initiated, if you will, is when the music kind of cuts in. Now, some of you who have seen some of the LD videos that I've gone over, you guys kind of know what I'm talking about. But if you really think about it, if you really take it into account, that's when the music cuts in. Like for Snortbucks tells you, oh, here comes the Pignosis and whatnot. We throw a funny meme and then you get the Pignosis. LD would go ahead and prompt that with music in a lot of ways. Now, granted, LD back then didn't know it was Pignosis. None of us did. But now we know. So keep that in mind.
Out on an entire era of console gaming because all I did was play Street Fighter. Phil's not a Street Fighter player. No, of course not. No. You can ask Justin Wong. You can ask any major East Coast player. You can ask, how many people can you ask? You know what I mean? If I was a tournament level, Arturo, anyone from Team Spooky, I'm gonna tell you that, how are you gonna say that I'm not a tournament level player? You gotta be out of your fucking mind. My god, people are dumb. They're so gullible. They're so gullible. How could you be that gullible? Because a random person on the internet made a video, you believe everything. You don't even fact check anything. You don't even go to Google and search 1 second. No, I believe it's Bible truth. It's Bible truth. People out there saying the most ridiculous. DSP is a pedophile. He met Panda Lee when she was only 15. They were secretly dating behind the scenes for 3 years before she turned 18, and then he made the relationship public.
And we're going to expand more on that. So for some of you guys who have been asking, hey, when are we going to get any main event stuff? Are you guys going to do it? Yeah, we're going to do it. Because that right there was an interesting rabbit hole all into itself. So those 3 videos are going to be something amazing. There is a tragedy to that. There's a tragic caveat, if you will. The individuals who sent the videos to main event talking about the pedo issue, those videos are gone. Either the channels have been taken down or whoever it was who owned the original video have taken it down or privated it or whatever the case may be. Now, main event has some of those that video, or of these videos, I should say, in his. So you'll be able to hear some of it. And some of the further allegations and whatnot. But so far, we haven't been able to track down the video or videos, in question, because apparently there's 2 of them. But they're still in main event's description box. The links are there. It's just the videos, at least as far as we know, don't exist. And I haven't been able to find a way to get them otherwise. So outside of what clips that he was able to edit into his own video, the main videos are lost to us. So rip to that. But I think there's still enough to tell the story.
What? Are you fucking stupid? My God, the shit people make up. It's like, wow. Someone actually said, I'm going to remain anonymous because I don't want to get into trouble, but I used to be a friend of DSP, and he was dating underage girls, and we all told him, no, don't do that, and he did it anyway, so now we're not friends with him anymore. What? What are you talking about? Yes, of course, because you know, I haven't been friends with John Rambo and Howard and other people that have been in my videos. I haven't known them for 100 years, and they would know, who is it? Who are these mysterious friends of mine that don't talk to me anymore? Who? I still talk to my friends. What are you talking about? And they showed not one shred of evidence, none of them have any shreds of evidence of any of the ridiculous, ludicrous things they say, but it's Bible truth, because it's the internet, ladies and gentlemen. It's the internet. And everything on the internet is true. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, despite the fact that over the years in my videos, there's been evidence that I was dating other girls. If you remember back, I think it was like around 2007. No, let me think about that again. It was around 2009, 2010, around that time period. It was actually, I think I know exactly when it was. I'm pretty sure it was 2010. It was the summer of 2010 when I used to use my King of Hate HD channel, my old vlogging channel from back in the day. I went to a Renaissance fair with a girl, and you can blatantly hear me talking to her and her talking. And it's not Panda Lee. Yes, that was a girl I used to date.
That's not your girlfriend either, though. That doesn't mean she was your girlfriend. That could have been just a friend of yours. That could have been one of those female cousins that we hear so much about. Well, there's 3 of them, and then there's Melissa. Melissa's the one who lives with him. Well, who did live with him and his parents. His parents adopted her, which actually we didn't actually know that. We knew that she was living with him and she was raised with him, but we didn't know that Phil's father formally adopted his brother's daughter. That was definitely new to the lore. Excuse me. That was actually new to the lore. But so he was raised with Melissa, and then there's 3 others. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but he has said all of their names before. That could have easily have been one of them, to be honest. So, I don't even know if that video still exists with this girl that he allegedly is talking about, or he was allegedly talking to, or whatever. But just because there was a girl in your video doesn't mean you were dating her. You hear that dumb shit on Twitter and on fucking Twitch at times, and shit where guys try to fucking make excuses about that pathetic shit. That's fucking crazy. That's fucking silly. But no. Sorry. That's not evidence. That's not proof. And he's not even saying that he was dating this girl. He just said he went to a fair with her, or a carnival, or whatever. What does that mean? That's not evidence for anything.
There's been girls in my videos. A girl who I did a full playthrough with once, a couple years back. I mean, how stupid can you be? Yes, during that time period, I was secretly dating a 15-year-old. You got me. You got me. You guys are such great investigative journalists and detectives. You got me good. You razzed me. And how could you find me out? I don't know. How I could have been so exposed. I am exposed and nude. I feel naked. How dare you? You've shown the world my true side. Yes, good for you. What the fuck? Unbelievable. Hilarious stuff, man. Hilarious stuff. Oh my goodness. So sometimes it's fun to just laugh about it, which is, what I'm doing here. I'm just laughing about it. It's just so ludicrous, the nonsense. The insane nonsense. And it's so ridiculous.
And the thing is, too, right, is he could have dispelled all of this back then and just came out and told and basically dropped details. Drop pearls in front of swine and be like, here's the dates, here's when her birthday was, and lay it all out there. Instead, he tried to brush it off and he tried to fake laugh it away. And it persisted to this very day. This could have been nipped in the butt in 2014. People came up to their final conclusions on it. Well, not final, but came up to a consecutive conclusions on it in 2020. That he more than likely was talking to Panda before she was 18, right? But there was at least no sexual contact until she was 18. But he was talking to her before then, for sure, for a while. And Phil's been smart and didn't say some dumb shit like, oh, well, the age of consent in Connecticut is 16 or some silly shit. Don't do that. Because what's the name of that piece of shit? He's kind of a piece of shit. Who ended up getting finessed by that one hoe who was sleeping around with all of his friends. What, they call me Carson or whatever the fuck his name is? Look at the nonsense that dude's in. Like, that shit is bad. And the reason why I say he's a fucking idiot is because that shit with Katarina or whatever the fuck her name was, that shit didn't need to get out there. He put it out there, first off and foremost. He admitted and he's apologized for it. But that's the stupid part. If you were going to put it out there to expose that chick, which is whatever, then you got to go all the way with it. Don't sit there and feel bad. Don't sit there and he donated like $10,000 to some fucking Twitch psychiatrist who was talking to her and shit, and he tipped the guy $10,000, some crazy shit. Don't do fucking lame ass cuck shit like that. And then now details are starting to come out that he wasn't even dating her. Like, you know what I'm saying? They weren't actually a thing and whatnot. And he did it out of jealousy or because he thought the situation was more than what it was or whatever the case may be. For whatever reason, there's so many pedophiles over there. the pedophiles on Twitch is fucking insane. I don't know why, but it's getting crazy over there. It's getting really, really nuts. And Twitch needs to step in and do something because or somebody needs to do something. It's just getting crazy. And then here's even more crazy part about the Carson situation. His friends are coming out and saying that he had admitted to grooming some of these girls, right? And none of them said anything until now when the information pops out. Until one of the girls, I should say, comes out and says she was groomed. Now all of a sudden everybody wants to come out with their evidence and want to speak their truth. They're all scumbags. They're all kind of scumbags. Oh my God, it's ugly. It's just ugly. Anyway, back on topic. So yeah, Darksydephil could have cleaned this up years ago. And chose not to. So it's funny how you ain't let all these people run around and call you a pedo for all these years when you could have easily dismissed all this shit. Well, you did dismiss it, but you could have easily cleared all this shit up. And you chose not to. Wow.
So preposterous, but you know, it's the internet. So it's Bible truth, right? Here we go.
And it's funny how he says that thing about Bible truth, but when other people say stuff, Phil's quick to call them liars or say, oh, these people aren't real gamers or they're not really about your best interest or whatever. They're all about money, right? And then when Phil gets confronted by those very people about that particular subject, well, I didn't know, or he'll come up with, he'll talk himself into fucking circles, into this fucking piggy vortex. When he's confronted, when he speaks on other people's shit, right, or what other people are doing, you know what I'm saying? But when people speak on him, oh, they need to go out there and do their research. But he can't do his research. He'll just come up off the cuff and talk out of his ass. And he expects to be given a pass. But everybody else, though, they need to get the details right. Just something to think about.
Street Fighter, I'm horrible, I'm a phony. You know, I never was good at it. I never spent a decade spending money traveling the country, getting my name in tournament results. You know, and at the same time, when I say I always won, I took my licks, trust me. There are many times when I just sucked ass. But, you know, the annals will tell that there were a few times when I did pretty good. And, yes, you know, I'm a horrible person.
You're supposed to get a pat on the back because you ranked? How many of those tournaments did you win? Not many. He said at least 3 Evo East, or 2 Evo East and 1 Evo West. Okay, so you've won qualifiers. Okay, cool. What about those other majors you went to and you just flat out got beasted on? We don't want to talk about that. What about all those Evos that you ended up going to and you didn't make it into ranking? You didn't make it into the top 10 or even the top 20. How about those? Since ranking is so important. Let's go ahead and push even further than that. How many of those Evos did you go to? And out of those Evos that you went to, how many of them did you win? You hear that silence? That's the exact same thing you would get from Phil. Until he could come up with his excuses. Doesn't mean a whole lot, does it?
I hate my fans. Here, I'll just come out and I'll make this statement for all of you. And it'll be hilarious if they try to misquote this, because here we go. Ready, everyone? Because this is obviously 100% true. I never played Street Fighter. I'm terrible at it. I'm a phony. I date underage girls. I only do YouTube to make money, and I only do Twitch because it strokes my ego. I hate my fans. I hate my viewers.
Okay, let's cut some of that up. Like I said, he was certainly talking to Panda before she was underage. So we can go ahead and scoot that off. You were never really that good in the FGC. You were certainly never as good as you said you were. End of story. End of story. You were never as good as you said you were. People within the FGC were questioning you back then on the validity and on how valid your skills were. So end of that. Just because you're a fucking pattern player doesn't make you good. Now, let's talk about YouTube. Oh, I only do YouTube for money. It's your job, isn't it, fucking idiot? You're a fucking tard. This is your job, right? This is your only source of income, right? So you only do YouTube for money. So fuck off. And then you do Twitch to go ahead and stroke your ego. And you were getting paid from Twitch subs, weren't you not? So yeah, you were kind of getting money and you were getting your ego stroked in real time. Anything else that we need to go ahead and debunk? Defiant sniff.
I am the devil incarnate. I've come here to end the world. I'm a cult leader. My goal is to recruit
deviled ham. Sure, I would agree with that. And you're a cult leader. A cult leader. Yeah, you kind of have a lot of the qualifications of it. You certainly do. You certainly do. But let me go ahead and bring that back.
It strokes my ego. I hate my fans. I hate my viewers. I am the devil incarnate. I've come here to end the world. I'm a cult leader. My goal is to recruit thousands of people to become my personal hate army and to take over the world. I also like to slap little children, drive over kittens, and I regularly take shits in the middle of people's living room floor. There you go.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So, you have a history of reckless driving. We can definitely say that. You don't like your fans. He really don't. Outside of what they can do for him, but he really doesn't like them. And he's admitted on this channel, we've seen stuff where he says he doesn't like how entitled people are, his audience is on Twitch, how they feel, how they have more power than he does, and he's the entertainer, if you will. So that's a thing. I like to slap little kids. We've all heard that nonsense about slapping that 11-year-old girl. And that was in 2000, let's see here. That was 2007, I think. That was 2007 when he said he slapped that little girl. Or he wished he could slap that little girl. And then he's had another, and then he's talked about slapping people in his audience, most of them underage, before too, for some of the comments that he sent him. That's apparently just a thing with Phil. He likes slapping children. So that's not something that was taken misconstrued, because that's something that you've actually said before. Oh, yikes.
Gentlemen, there you are. That is the true Darksydephil. He has been revealed to you, and now it is up to you to decide whether or not you would like to.
Thing, yeah, like I said, he shows a lot of that behavior. And Hate Army is certainly this little coalition of fucking fanatic fans that he thought he could send out to be his personal attack hogs of war, if you will, at one time or another. So he's kind of co-signing more than he's dispelling anything. And it's funny, too, that back then, this wasn't considered Detractor memes. This wasn't considered slander. This was just frivolous shit online to laugh at. Well, why can't he laugh at it anymore? Look at what Twitter did to him.
Okay, here you have it. The truth revealed. The truth revealed. Alright, but anyway, to get back to my point, I missed out on a whole era of games because I was playing Street Fighter, so I didn't play Resident Evil 4. I didn't play Final Fantasy X. I only tried them and didn't particularly like them. I really get the feeling that tomorrow, when I start both of those games, things are going to be a lot different. I do. And I'm very much looking forward to it. Again, those games are revered as classics by people. So, I am definitely going to, you know, do my best to not only do good playthroughs of them, but to enjoy them and to see what all the hubbub is about. Okay? Alright, so I thank everyone for putting up with my foolishness. And I think it's time to start with the DLC tonight. What do you think? You think I've dicked around enough? Alright, very nice.
Now, I like the fact that he admitted it right there. He's only playing Resident Evil to try to take advantage of the fan base that's around it, which is the reason why he plays AAA games in general. It's the same reason why back in, what's that? That was 2017, I believe, 2017, 2018, when he went ahead and got on his bitch fit on Twitter about shills for what's it called? Was it State of Decay? State of Decay 2, actually. What the fuck does he care about State of Decay? Or that series, I should say. He don't. He only played the game because there was a shitload of fucking buzz about it on Twitter. There was a shitload of buzz about it on Twitter. And he wanted in on it. And when he found out that people were already getting this game, a game that he doesn't give a fuck about, he was mad about it because he was like, oh shit, I could probably get in there and get a piece. But these people had it for a week. So Phil pays the $20 extra to get it 4 days early than the actual release, plays it, and then after like the 4 or 5 days was up, he dropped it. But he only did it to try to take advantage of a hype train that was going on Twitter in the State of Decay community and on Twitch, of course. That's the only reason why he played that game. He never gave a fuck about State of Decay. Anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give me a second to tidy up. And then we'll reconvene for final thoughts, and I'll let you guys go. See you guys in a second. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Right back in it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this right here, unexpectedly, of course, it's just amazing how the Gouty cosmos work, is going to be essentially what's going to start us off on our journey of Darksydephil's FGC history. And you guys got a little taste, a little morsel, if you will, a sample cup, if you will, of the new coffee that we're kind of brewing, or the new beverage, if you will. Because I suppose it could be a coffee, a tea, or a smoothie. That we're kind of brewing up. So that's what the situation is. That's what we're going to be going over. And Main Event's 3 videos will cover some of the things that he was bitching about. And I like the fact that Darksydephil sat there and watched all 3 of those things. That he watched all 3 of those videos and he took all that shit in. And he thought he could laugh it off. Even though the people who eventually end up becoming detractors later on, and you'll see some prominent names in those comment sections, are in there saying, hey, I appreciate you, Main Event finally talking about this shit, or, oh, I didn't know all this stuff that was going on, this shit really opened my eyes. And then because Main Event has links in his descriptions to a lot of the videos that he's pulling his information from. People went over there and saw those videos. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't be surprised if Phil, in some way, shape, or form, had something to do with the channel either going down or a video being pulled or causing the video to go private or whatever the case may be. We'll never know. Not fully. But I wouldn't be surprised given Phil's penchant for how he handles things. And yet again, the way he handles anything is more than likely how he handles everything to some degree. So that's a thing in itself. Should be entertaining either which way. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. I catch you guys for the next one. This is the Gout Report. This is DSP News 2nd edition. And take care of yourselves, guys. And I'll see you for the start of our FGC journey. So make sure you guys pack heavy because it's gonna be a long trip. It's gonna be a really long trip. Take care of yourself, guys.